All right, Big Ten, you're up as we compare the conferences here on Mark Rogers TV, taking all the results of the non-conference games between the Power 5 teams in 2016 and coming to a result, not necessarily of which is the best conference for sure, but which conference played better against the other four leagues. So we throw out the group of five in the FCS games, not that they're not valuable, not that they don't indicate something. If you beat a really good group of five team like a Houston or a Boise State, on the other hand, that you lost to an FCS team, those should be taken into consideration. But understand that this is a closed experiment between the Power 5 leagues. So if you start to compare and try to give value to the group of five and to the FCS schools, it's very, very difficult to do. So this is a closed experiment. The Big Ten went 10-10. So consider for the Big Ten, they went 3-7 in postseason play, and take out the Western Michigan win in the Cotton Bowl, even though that's a very quality win for Wisconsin in the Big Ten. It doesn't count, unfortunately, here. The other thing that doesn't count that we could possibly, I'm not a mathematician, get into would be the results of the games, the actual scores of the games. So if Clemson beat Alabama in the national championship game, the last second, the last play by 3 points, okay, that should be weighted differently than if Clemson went out there and won 50-0. But it's not. It's just about wins and losses among Power 5 teams. So the Western Michigan win for Wisconsin and the Big Ten does not count here. So the Big Ten went 8-3 against the other leagues in the regular season, then took the downer at 2-7 in postseason play. What does it all mean? Well, those Big Ten teams that won the 10 games, 84-46. I don't put a whole lot of stock in that because a lot of those wins for all the leagues are against group of five teams and FCS teams. So what I take into consideration heavily, that's why I put the winning percentage there as well, is 55-35 is the record of those 10 Big Ten teams against the rest of the Big Ten. Those are their conference records combined, a 61 winning percentage. The average seeding for those 10 Big Ten teams that won those 10 games is 6.2 inside the 14-team Big Ten. All right, who did they beat? Well, they beat teams that went 65-60. Again, not a whole lot of stock in that. But they beat teams that went 42-36, were 6 games over 500 against their own leagues. So we're talking about Ohio State beat Oklahoma, Michigan State beat Notre Dame. Well, what did we do with the independents? Well, you got to watch our introductory video where we fully explain this. So Notre Dame, we ranked Notre Dame's record against where it would place in the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Pac-12. Notre Dame came out to an 11 seed. Michigan beat Colorado. That's a 3 in the Big 10, defeating a 2 seed in Colorado in the Pac-12. Nebraska beat Oregon. Northwestern beat Duke and Pitt. Iowa beat Iowa State. Wisconsin beat LSU. Minnesota beat Oregon State. Minnesota also beat Washington State. Probably the best win in terms of seeding for the Big 10 would be the Minnesota win over Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. Consider that Minnesota is the 7th seed in the Big 10. Washington State is the 4th seed in the Pac-12. Well, there's 12 teams in the Pac-12. There's 14 in the Big 10. So we adjusted the seeds. We explained that in the introductory video as well. So Washington State, are they a 4 seed? Well, they're a 4 seed in the Pac-12, but they're a 4.67 seed in a 14-team league. And that's the standard here. All right, so the average 10 teams that won those games for the Big Ten are a 6.2 seed. They defeated seeds that were 7.5 seeds. Sure, you would expect them to win most of those games, but they won all 10. That shows some strength for the Big Ten. All right, the losses, the 10 losses for the Big Ten. Ohio State lost to Clemson. Michigan lost to Florida State. Michigan losing by 1 point to Florida State, again, doesn't factor in here that it was an extremely close game, or that Ohio State was blown out by Clemson, just the wins and the losses. Penn State, the 1 seed, losing to Pitt, the 7 in the ACC, bad loss for the Big Ten. Michigan State loses to BYU. Indiana loses to Wake Forest. Rutgers to Washington. Now, that game, for example, the last seed in the Big Ten, Rutgers, a 14 seed, loses to a 1 seed, a playoff team in Washington. That's a loss that's definitely counting in this system, but it's a less of a hit for the Big Ten because a 14 is supposed to lose to a 1. Maryland lost to Boston College, Indiana to Utah, Nebraska to Tennessee, and Illinois lost to North Carolina. Illinois an 11 seed, North Carolina a 5 in the ACC. All right, this is how it shakes out. Every game starts out as a 20-point game. 20 points for the winner and negative 20 points for the loser. All right, then it's adjusted by seeding. So, when Ohio State loses to Clemson, Ohio State's a 2 seed in the Big Ten, Clemson's a 1 seed. So, you have to account for the seeding loss, which is 1. So that becomes a 19 instead of a 20, a 19-point loss for the Big Ten, a 19-point win for the ACC. So let's take a drastic example here. We talked about Penn State losing to Pitt. Penn State's a 1, Pitt's a 7 seed, so that's a 6 seed difference. So tack on 6 points to the loss and the win. That's a 26-point win for the ACC. It's a 26-point loss for the Big Ten. Really, most of the Big Ten wins were like-seeded games. Nothing too crazy here. Maybe one of the better wins would be, the one lower seed win for the Big Ten was the 4 seed Minnesota defeated, or the 7 seed Minnesota defeating the 4 seed in Washington State. All right, so it comes out that the quality of win for the Big Ten averages out to a 19.1. We saw for the Big 12 where their quality of win averaged only a 14. So the Big Ten had pretty quality wins there, considering it starts at 20. And most of the time, your better seeds are going to be your lower seeds. That's why they're higher seeds. So it didn't come down much from 20. So those are quality wins for the Big Ten at 19.1. The quality of loss at negative 18.1. The Big 12 was into the 21 range. So the quality of loss is also more quality for the Big Ten when you consider the teams that lost those 10 games won less than 48% of their conference games, and they were losing to teams that won almost 60% of their conference games in the other 4 leagues. So the Big Ten comes out with a negative or a plus 10 points for its 10-10 showing. That's my take on the Big Ten, and we will finish up, of course, with the other 3 conferences. And again, check out the lead video that explains the process, the method to the madness, right here on Mark Rogers TV.